Feedback. You're good to go.
Good to go?
No.
Maybe?
It's me. Yep, I think you're good now.
All right, all right. All right, so it is 6:30 PM. I hereby call this meeting of the Town Pools Project Building Committee to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty, and then Scott, would you like to do roll call? Okay, maybe, or Jonathan, whoever.
Roll call. Mr. Pride. Here. Ms. Conway.
Here.
Mr. Tiniakis.
Here.
Ms. Francolino.
Here.
Ms. Capello.
Here.
Mr. Mankey.
Here.
And just let the record show that we are missing.
Janice.
Vacant position.
We have an empty seat.
Yeah, sure, we're good. Yeah. All right. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our March 23rd, 2026 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved and we can move on to public participation. Come on up. I don't know how to work the timer, so just,
That's all right.
yeah, take your time. Yeah, no big deal.
When are you working though? Maybe I can. All right, Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. I just wanted to say that, judging on your agenda and item 8 and whatnot, I think the goal tonight would probably to say, we're done discussing it for now. And if that's true, I need you guys to explain exactly why in more detail, not just there's no funding. Now this, just explain the whole process so everybody understands it. That being said, I think with all the information you got out of Wesson and Sampson reports and whatnot, you could still go ahead and get close to where you need to be on your final decisions for when the time comes, and you don't have to waste time arguing over are the lanes going to be 25 or 50 millimeters and stuff like that. And this one's for Rose. She wanted me to, I did discuss this with the Parks and Rec chair, but she wanted to implore that you pass on to Parks and Rec people who are here on the board, that something be done about the bathhouses, even though we are not, moving forward maybe, but whether we are or not, there was giant cobwebs, some power washing on the walls. They look terrible. New shower curtains are pretty cheap, Temu. But anyways, that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once.
First time here, I'm sure.
It's okay. All right. Then if there's no more public comment, we can move on to comments by committee members. Any comments? All right, seeing none. All right, then we can move on to old business, which is item A. I have a review of actions made. So I wanted to add this to the agenda just to kind of give a holistic summary of what the committee has been doing over the past about year and change. So I went back and I watched all of our meetings since about August of last year. And I just took notes the whole time. And then Jim also was kind enough to do the same thing and added some notes there. So I'm gonna do just a quick summary. I'm gonna try and make it quick. And at any point, if anyone has anything to add or any questions, just feel free to stop me and we can go from there, okay? All right, so we'll start August 25th, 2025. At this point in time, we already had, the committee had already voted to go out to RFP to get like a structural analysis done. Weston Sampson is one that had completed that. At this point in time, they weren't done with the report itself, but they were out at our pools. They were out there like, you know, finding hollow spots. They found a couple big cracks over at Churchill. And at this point, it was brought to the committee that they recommended doing some boring in the areas. And then they had advised us at that meeting that like the final report should be due sometime near September. Fast forward the next month to September 22nd. We had a proposal to conduct the geotech analysis and do some ground radar testing in the area. That came to the sum of about $15,800. That money was already slated for the committee at that point. During this meeting, we confirmed that the pools were safe. They were safe to use. And then if if the reports came back good, then we would build in that same location depending on the reports at that time. Motion was made to use those funds for the geotech analysis and the radar testing. And then we skip over to November. We did not meet in October. And then at this point, we had a presentation from Weston Sampson that was provided by Patrick Bates, I believe is his name. It's important. I want to point out that in this presentation, Patrick himself pointed out that he wasn't aware that the presentation itself was going to be brought out to the public. I think that presentation was more meant just for the committee to review. But essentially, the assessment is completed. The pools were in what he says functional obsolescence. So they worked, but they're definitely behind on the times. They don't fit like the regulations that the state now has for like the water cycle time and a whole bunch of other stuff. We confirmed they could be repaired and brought back to a level of service that's adequate for the state. We looked at, they looked at ways to work within the existing shell. They recommended that we work within the existing shell. We got some, in what they say is opinion costs. So they didn't really give us hardline estimate numbers within that report. They were just general, what they felt was kind of close to the ballpark. But I want to say that he had to use the word opinion costs for a reason, because within that report, the scope of that report was the structural analysis. It wasn't meant to be like the hard report for like the designs or anything like that. Let's see here. The water turnaround time was bad. Pool decks will not be able to be salvaged. We reiterated again during that meeting that pools were safe to open. And then we, as a committee, had decided that we wanted some more information to see like what would be best to keep in the same location or entertain the idea of a new location. We went over the three options briefly as far as like the timing. The concrete liner gave us the longest time over out of the three options. Ballpark was around 15 million for both pools to be redone. And then they told us that the final report should be ready within a few weeks. So the report at the time wasn't completely ready. I guess they had a couple last minute things they wanted to do. Our next meeting then happened is December 15th of 2025. We got the final report. It was 149 pages. At that point in time, our town manager had advised that he would meet with our insurance Kerma, Connecticut Health District, the town attorney, just to get a legal opinion to make sure that the pools were safe to be open. And then this is when we were advised for the first time that whatever the next steps that we were going to take, there's going to be a hurdle, because at that time we realized that the committee itself did not have enough money to move forward with like the next steps there. So we floated the idea we might wait for the budget, the next year's budget, which would have been this year's budget. Might be able to find money, move them around. We clarified that the money was for this RFP design. And then we made the first decision that we should be going with the three options that were presented. So we, as a committee, decided that we would entertain those three options and talk those out. It was advised that we should get Parks and Rec involved once we finally got the RFP out there and we got the results from that. And then we determined during that meeting that our next meeting would be focused on what we plan to do as far as those three options with the pool shell. And then we figured out when our next meeting would be. January 27th is was a Zoom meeting. I want to say the weather had made us not meet in person. I'm not
That
entirely.
was weather.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I became chair during that meeting. Mr. Mankey became vice chair. We went over the design concepts with Weston and Sampson. We decided whether or not whether we should advance having one pool or two pools. The committee, we didn't take a formal vote, but then we all unanimously decided that we would want two pools in town. We started talking about those three different options for the pool shells. Again, the town manager advised us that we didn't have that funding to advance. We talked about the need for an RFP to promote transparency, to select a vendor, to get the design process, get to the designs from whoever the vendor might be. That's when our town manager had advised us that he had met with the town attorney, Kerma, Connecticut Health District, and that there were no concerns about opening the pools. The pools were safe. There wasn't any kind of big, huge liability or anything like that. We came back to discussing the three options for the pool shell. Right, and then that's when we had decided to get a draft RFP written up and ready to go when we had the funding. We confirmed the 2026 meeting dates. And then we had stated that we would meet again. If we can't move forward, then the meetings might get canceled. So that was in January, and then we didn't meet in February. Come March 23rd, I was not here. I think I got knee surgery that month, I'm pretty sure. But I wasn't here for that meeting. Mr. Mankey was running the meeting there. We got updates that we should be at this point in time. We got updates that we should be fine to bond out for the pools. Additions to the RFP were discussed. We advised that we can send it out at the time of the meeting. And then let's see here. And then pretty much the end of that meeting said the next following meeting would have been about 5-10 minutes just so they could approve the draft RFP. And that's where we're at now. Did I miss anything, guys? That all sound about right?
It does.
Yeah, does anyone have any comments on that?
I just have a question about the bonding capacity. It looks like the firehouse is gonna go out for a referendum. If that passes, doesn't that kill our bonding capacity to have a pool?
So, I mean, at this point in time, this late in the year, we wouldn't be able to get anything on for referendum this year. I do know that we have a few items that are gonna be dropping off of our bonding limits within the next couple of years. But if I could be quite frank, I'm not terribly concerned about that portion of what we have to do right now. I think I'm just trying to focus on the exact next step, which is finding the funding so we can act on the RFP. And then, once we do get the RFP out there, that could be, a couple months from now, it could be 6 months from now, it could be 8 months from now. The whole bonding question changes as time goes on. So I'm not too focused on it. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, again, I don't think it's our issue. The bonding isn't our issue. Our issue is, I think our charge from the council was to review the pools and present back to the council. The council will make that decision whether they take our recommendation and do something with it or not. That's their issue. That's their pay grade. We're the different, our charge is just the pools, and that's not, we don't consider anything else but the pools. So I think that's really not our issue.
Yeah, it's not a purview.
And how much money is this gonna cost?
Jonathan had advised us that very rough figures were 120,000 altogether. Does that sound right, Jonathan? Yeah, right. Yeah. So rough figures, and that's about 60K for each pool.
And that's to do what?
To act on the RFP. And I guess I'll take the time to kind of like map out like what the RFP is doing here, right? So I mean, a copy of it is in the folder there, but essentially we are asking, we're throwing it out into the ether, into whatever company does this kind of work. We're saying, hey, we have a project coming up. This is the scope of that project. Tell us how much you would charge us to do that project. And then usually we choose the cheapest, the cheapest bidder. I compare it to the same thing as like when you call someone to like cut down a tree or come to do some work at your house. You have them come over, you show them what you want to get done, they give you a quote. And then at that point, you could either pay them and they'll do the job, or you go find another quote. So essentially, we're looking for a quote, but we don't have money to actually do the job. So that's pretty much where we're at with this RFP. So I think it's important that we have the RFP ready to go. And then the second we have the funds, we can act on it.
So the quote is just to get the company to draw up plans for 2 pools?
So the quote, and I'll read it right here. The town is interested in conceptual designs and cost estimates to rebuild the 2 pools using the concrete liner option as outlined in the 2025 Weston and Sampson report, as well as wading pools, bathhouses, and associated infrastructures, i.e. pump rooms, fencing, docking, pool lifts, etc., such that the town's aquatic facility adequately provide for swim competitions and Red Cross compliant swim lessons, and are fully compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. In addition, the town is interested in conceptual designs and cost estimates to construct splash pads either adjacent to or nearby both pool sites. As part of their deliverables, the consultant shall provide detailed line item cost estimates such that the town would be able to eliminate 1 or more aquatic assets from a future referendum. For example, depending on the cost estimate, town may wish to not proceed with construction of one of the splash pads or one of the pools as part of the future referendum. Therefore, the line item details shall allow the town to make a la carte decisions about the project scope. In addition, the cost estimate shall include cost escalators to account for future construction inflation. That's the goal of the RFP.
And that's 120,000.
60K for pools.
Okay, so
And that's just like a rough figure that we were given by Weston Sampson because they've done this before. We could have a third company come in at a lower price point, which would be nice, I guess.
and it was my understanding that there was $60,000 in the budget in CIP that was taken out of the budget this year.
Yes.
So in a sense, we never had $120,000 in the budget to pay for this.
No, if the council didn't get rid of that amount, we, as a committee, could have discussed maybe just going out to RFP for one of the pools. We could have talked about that, but the budget process happened and that money was allocated to other resources. Any other questions?
Yes, so at what point, I think we were talking about getting an idea on both of the pools and moving forward with a referendum for both of them and thinking about whether we can stagger them. So one would be done, the other, they'd both be approved, one would be done first while the other one was open and stagger it that way. And is that something we can still do? Or I remember there was an issue with that. We have to do both at the same time. Or were we gonna do one at a time?
When we were speaking with Weston and Sampson, they advised that it wouldn't be ideal to do both pools at the same time because you don't want both pools to be closed for a summer season. But I do think that at the end of the day, that decision most likely falls on the council, like whether or not they wanted to push both pools to be on the referendum question, which is like the ultimate goal of this committee. And I don't think that's really up to us to decide, like, that order of operation. It's good that we get the information to provide to council to let them know what their options are. But at the end of the day, we're just looking for those 2 designs for these pools, and fingers crossed they're what the town wants.
Personally, I would say we couldn't get one pool passed on referendum. To ask for 2 would be like, not gonna happen. But
Yeah.
I think that Eileen brings up a good point. Your timeline starts in 2025, but really this whole process starts in 2024 when this committee pushed through a referendum in 2 weeks for one pool, which was a faulty referendum. I think that obviously the town didn't pass. And because that we're kind of in this situation now. And so I guess what's the plan then? What's the goal here? I I don't get, our charge was to look at the pools. We've done that. Our charge is to come up with a plan of repairing them. And we were stymied that because the council didn't give us any money to do that. So what's the plan? What are we gonna do about it?
So, I mean, if you wanna, we could go into new business and talk about next steps now if you want.
Well, someplace, yeah, we can do that in new business, we can do it, but I get where we've been, I get that, but we also have to know where we started in 2024, which was.
Yeah, okay. All right, so yeah, well, I mean, we'll talk about next steps in news business, but so are there any more questions before we move on to the next line item? No. Okay, cool. Old business number B here is to review the updated RFP for conceptual design cost estimates. So that it was emailed to everybody and it's in the minutes here. Jonathan had added two things here, mapping out a timeline for the you know, how long the project would take. And then adding in the waiting pool language. Everything else is the same from when the rest of the committee had met back in March. Does anyone have any kind of any thoughts, any opinions on, or any changes they'd like to see?
Is a waiting pool necessary if we have a splash pad at both pools? I don't know. You know, zero depth entry.
I mean, I think that's up to us to decide, but as,
Get costs for like à la carte, just.
yeah, right, yeah, so like we should have that option to say, oh, maybe we don't want the waiting pool here and we just want a splash pad, you know?
When we were talking about splash pads, I was talking to someone, and I haven't been to one in a long time, so I should probably go visit one.
Road trip.
You really, just see what's going on and observe. Someone who has been to one lately said there's a lot of older kids that were coming in and disrupting the smaller kids. And I know that we were going to have it fenced, is there going to be an attendant at the splash pad? The splash pad is just going to be open for whoever wants to go in. How does?
I mean, I believe that would be under Scott's wheelhouse to kind of.
Well, it
manage.
depends on the location of these splash pads. If they are in the pool facility, then obviously it will be staffed with lifeguards, staff checking passes, et cetera. So there will be some presence of observing. If there are kids that are misbehaving, they could be dealt with. But there are splash pads in other communities that are just standalone, and there is no surveillance whatsoever. So you're just basically, a resident might see something, may call the police department if something is going awry. And that's how you get some action if that happens. So there's two different options depending on how we do these. And go ahead.
I didn't attend a splash pad, but I did attend with one of my grandkids a splash pad. And it was in Plainville, and it was a standalone splash pad. And it was just open to the public and you could just go in. But there were older kids that would played in it, but they seemed to be well behaved when I was there, but maybe this is when I was there, so who knows what. Yeah.
I've done the road trip thing with my granddaughter. I've been to Cromwell, I've been to Middletown, I've been to South Windsor and New Britain. I think that's it. New Britain did have an attendant, but basically that was just kind of just came in. I mean, they didn't do anything. They didn't go out there. They didn't supervise or anything like that. South Windsor didn't have anybody. Cromwell didn't have anybody. Those were standalone pretty much. They were near a pool facility, but not, but they're great. They're good for anybody. And the kids were all pretty cooperative. I think because most of them come with a parent. So, it was fun. One of them was located South Windsor. There's a pool here, there's a playground here, and then there's a splash pad over here. So it was like a good day to just spend doing whatever you want. It's fun. It was really good.
Pop around from each one. And that's what we have in mind. I guess I just wanted to get a better handle on if it was going to be more open not, because it's going to be open longer than the actual pool itself, it should be, have a whole separate entrance and, or is it going to be, have a fence around it, or is it just gonna be open? Or I guess that's, we'll get the concepts from this RFP and
Yeah.
go from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Right in the last line here, the town is interested in conceptual designs and cost estimates to construct splash pads either adjacent or adjacent to or nearby both sites. So it kind of depends on when they get out there and they look at, how much Play-Doh they can play with
Yeah.
and where they could put stuff. So it's
You can do this, you
Yeah,
can do
yeah,
that, and then it'll
exactly.
be up to us.
all right. So back to the RFP. Does anyone have any specific?
Yeah. I had a question.
Sure.
How much have we spent so far with the Weston and Sampson report?
Let me see here. I know that we spent, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, it was around like 60,000 for the,
I need to research it, I can get you the.
I know
Okay.
we,
It was 60,000, we had 15 from the state.
60,000, and then we spent 15,000 on the radar and the geotechnical.
That was from the state.
Is that from the state? Okay, so,
So is it possible to go back to Weston and Sampson, amend this report and just say, look, we're looking for now for an actual design and these are our requests. So maybe we won't have to pay another company another $60,000. Maybe it'll cost us $15,000.
I mean, personally, I think it's a private company that's, I think that's like us asking them to do free work. You know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So in answer to Nancy's question, that $60,000 per pool, that came from Weston and Sampson's cost proposal that we asked them. So it's possible if we go out to RFP, there's another firm that might say, oh, we'll do it for 55,000 each. But that was the sort of rule of thumb that we got from them. So yeah, that we've already sort of done that.
Okay. Thank you. So we wouldn't be saving any money going with them.
Yeah, it's all kind of speculative,
Yeah, I had questions on the RFP itself.
Yeah.
So, kind of on the point that we had here, I found it very confusing reading this again with like fresh eyes, what we wanted to do with the wading pool and the splash pad. Like, maybe kind of similar to the question is, do we want a wading pool or do we want a splash pad? Or do we want, or do we want to spell that out better? I found it.
What page you, Ann?
It is kind of that paragraph AJ wrote where the town is interested in conceptual
It says,
design.
preferred design options,
Yeah.
should be the second page, I think.
So it kind of mentions, as well as both wading pools, bathhouses, and any associated infrastructure. But then we kind of talk about splash pads. So like, I mean, I feel like we should, I mean, if we want to do à la carte, we could say either keep the wading pool where it is, but I thought we wanted a splash pad where the wading pool was. So like, we can do like a and/or situation, like kind of spell it out a little bit better. I just found it confusing because it's like, do we want a wading pool and a splash pad and a pool?
Okay.
I don't think that's what we were saying. Feel like it was 2 out of the 3.
I thought we were looking at all options to see, okay, so what would the cost be for the pool with the wading pool with the splash pad? And maybe do the wading pool at one, splash pad at the other, and decide which one would be the best site to have a splash pad and or just the wading pool. I don't think we were looking at for both at each.
Yeah,
Or
I
either
think
one,
just
but-
reading this, I didn't get what you just said. Like, that's not what we were saying in
Yeah.
this.
I feel like we have that sort of protection, the way it's written out, saying that like we want everything line item à la carte, because if we get to the design phase of this, I feel like they're able to like just kind of interchange it, so long as like the spacing is required, but like I'm also open to just adding the words and or, you know what I mean? That's
Well,
not
I
a
just
huge
think
change.
there is a better way to word it. Because I think what you just said there makes perfect sense, but what we have written here doesn't
Yeah.
say that same thing.
Any other thoughts, guys? What are you guys' thoughts?
I mean, I can,
So I guess maybe just be more specific to say like.
right,
different prices for, all the different items that we would like, and then we could essentially just like an à la carte. How much would it cost for,
Recommend, yeah.
a splash pad? How much would it cost for a wading pool?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe instead of both wading pools and or splash pads at the same location. But I believe the splash pads definitely at Mill Pond most likely would need a fence around them. I thought all of them would need a fence. But we're not spelling that out, but I feel like they all need a separate entrance and a fence based on what we had talked about previously.
Yeah,
So I don't know if that's like the level of detail we want to get in here, but I feel like that's.
yeah, I don't think we need to get hyper specific with it, because like we'll have meetings with them to discuss those like specific design options. Because also, you don't want it to be like too wordy in the sense that it's like constricted or,
If it's too specific, they're just gonna give us that without.
yeah, exactly what we're asking for, and we won't have the ability to kind of explore different options and stuff like that. Jonathan, what are your thoughts? You think just adding a few words? Sorry to keep making you come up with that.
I think there's 100 different ways to skin the cat. I mean, and you could have a wading pool at one, you could have a splash pad at one. I think the whole reason that we agreed to say a la carte in the first place was so that you're not, limiting yourself in the future. And I think to AJ's point, when the consultant's out here, these are the exact kind of conversations you're gonna have with them. Like, for example, a fence around a wading pool, that's probably a code requirement. So there's no
That's
sort
too
of
specific, is what we're
flexibility.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Just another note, we mentioned using the concrete liner option in that paragraph. I was thinking we'd want to say keeping the pools at the same location as well, just so that's spelled out specifically.
So just,
I'll just make him stand up and get
So
back.
that was the concrete liner option, was one of the three options that was spelled out in the Weston and Sampson study. And so the decision of the committee was that was your preferred option. It was more expensive, but it had the longevity. The sort of cost benefit analysis that was the best option. So that's why I said concrete liner option is outlined in the report, as opposed to just the regular liner or that weird plexiglass thing.
So you don't think we need to like specifically say in the same location? Or you think like that's?
I think,
No,
just the
because
word in the
The
same.
liner would be, I mean, if you built it in a location,
Yeah,
the liner
yeah.
wouldn't.
Yeah, that's why you do a liner. Yeah.
But
So-
I don't know, like, is again, how in depth we want to get, because I feel like I hear two different things from people. They're like, we want more specifics, and then we're saying we want less specific. So it's
Well,
like,
we're attaching the Weston and Sampson report
yeah,
to this, right? So they would have the options.
Yeah, yeah, I think for it, in the scope of what we're talking about right here, I don't think we need the hyper specific conversations to happen now, just because like when ultimately whoever the vendor is comes to us, we'll have ample time to go through a design like conversation with them, see actual mock-ups and get the price for all that. Like that's when we can get like super in the nitty-gritty of things.
okay. It sounded like people were looking for more specifics. That's why I kind of started down that
No,
road.
I get it.
I think we're pretty safe because it wouldn't be a liner if the pool was somewhere
Yeah,
else.
I mean, that makes sense, but sometimes you have to spell things out.
Yeah,
also.
I get you.
I guess the other thing maybe if we wanted to talk about was, it said something to provide swim competitions. Are we 100% want to have swim competitions in there? Or is that a
I would think
absolutely
at least
100%?
one pool we need. to
Yeah,
be
we
able
had the
to-
conversation that like one of the pools would be focused on like competitions, and the other one would be kind of more recreational for the public. We haven't had that conversation about which exact pool.
But we're all agreeing, or mostly majority's agreeing on that. I just don't know if we ever talked.
Yeah, we haven't like made
Specifically
like a
amongst all
formal
of us.
vote or anything like that, but we
Yeah.
have had conversation about it where it seemed like that was a consensus about among everyone that we'd have like one and one with like particular focus at each.
Regular pool, swim competitions would have to be at Mill because they're usually 25 yards. And there's no 25-yard section at, well, I suppose you could
It
go
could
deep
be.
into the other side, right? The 5-foot wall, but I don't think it's wide enough. You'd have to have them at Mill unless you wanted to do the long course ones and maintain that. We do have some long course swimmers and they swim in the mornings early at Churchill. And there could be a meet there if that was made deeper and kids could use blocks. That's the problem. That's the other problem with Mill. We needed to make it a little deeper so kids could use blocks.
Well, I mean, because that's to me saying we want to have starting blocks at one of these pools, basically.
And when the time comes,
We would-
we could have like the Newington swim team come and like let us know like what their needs are and like. what they-
So that's when we maybe make some cuts when we get more information,
Yeah,
instead of being more specific now is kind of what I was trying to get at. But I
Yeah.
think I'm getting, from what I'm hearing, I'm getting too specific.
I think we would meet with whoever, whatever firm we
Stakeholders.
choose, we would meet with them before they started their work anyway. So we would,
Yeah.
we would have those questions answered or discussed anyway, probably a couple of times,
Yeah,
I would assume.
I was just trying to see if we need to narrow it now versus it sounds like we're gonna narrow it later.
yeah, I think now keeping it kind of a little bit open, so that way we get more ideas and more options. And then we could kind of whittle it down to, make it what we think is the best thing.
Okay, I'm batting 1,000 then. I think the one other thing is it's kind of the paragraph in the beginning where we kind of talk about the history. I do think we had the 2025 data for swim, how many people showed up to the pool, right? So I think we have 24, and if we want to add in 25 as well. I don't know if that changes much, but we have 23 and 24. We could have 25 would be the most up to date.
Yeah.
That's that kind of first paragraph background.
I mean, Scott, would you wouldn't have an idea of this year's numbers, would you?
I do not know.
Yeah, I
yet.
wouldn't expect you
not
to
this
be
year.
We
honest.
will when it closes up.
25 we would have though.
Oh, yeah,
25.
25, yeah.
We did see those numbers before. I wouldn't expect 26.
So both RFPs, they have both bathhouses being replaced
Yes.
in it. Because, I mean, since I've been here, the biggest complaints have been the bathhouses.
Mhm.
Obviously, the pools, if they're safe. We're getting to a point where we're putting paint on paint on paint, and now we're getting chips of paint coming out, so everyone thinks that obviously they're deteriorating. Tom does his best to do that, but he's warned me many times. I've seen it with my own eyes, so there's only so many layers you could put on there before it deteriorates the process, so we're at a point where we really have to think about what to do for those.
All right, so to Jim's point, if you wanted to update the numbers, we could hold off on voting to like approve this draft. You could always come back to it next month if you want to do that.
Yeah, we could have the numbers by next month.
Yeah, so if
I
everyone.
mean, if that's the only thing we have to update, I mean, it's holding us back from doing this. I mean, I'm fine. I was just thinking the last 3 years would be good to have the numbers, but if that's the only thing and everyone wants to vote yes today, I mean, I don't think that would
What
hold
are
it
our thoughts,
back.
guys?
Do you think it's a big difference?
No,
No,
Okay.
Probably not.
it's pretty straightforward every year after year.
Okay. I'm okay with using the same.
All right, all right. Any other thoughts on the draft, guys?
I think the draft is good, but I think it would be a smarter move to put out a draft for one pool and then put out a draft, when that's done, put out a draft for another pool. It's gonna be a lot easier, not easier, but we're more apt to find $60,000 than $120,000, right? That's my point.
That's a
Not
hard-
that we would
that's a-
only do
yeah.
one pool, we would do both pools, but I just think with the money the way it is, it would be easier and more palatable to the public if we put out this, we got our design for one, we built one, and then we moved on. That's just my opinion. I know I've said it before, but that's my opinion on this, is that I think it's shooting for the moon. And we'd be better off with just one pool at a time.
My personal only reserves with that, and if you guys feel differently, that's fine. I just think that if we do it one at a time, I think we're gonna get tunnel vision on one pool. And we're not going to, we're gonna focus on whichever pool has the RFP, and then probably months will go by. And then it's so possible that the second pool kind of just gets forgotten and left in the dust. And now our charge is to get a plan for both pools. So I don't want to see that get astray from what our charge is. And I think that, and I'm hoping, at least with the way the town is and the finances work, hopefully with working with the town manager's office, we'll find a way to get enough money within a reasonable amount of time I mean, that's my thoughts. That's what I'm hoping for at least. But yeah, I'm just nervous about focusing on one pool just because I don't want to get that tunnel vision and I don't want the committee to kind of lose sight of why we're here.
Right, I mean, I think from the Weston and Sampson report, we all saw that both pools were just as in need, even both bathhouses. So even if we go to referendum for one pool, maybe we can add one pool and two bathhouses, and then the following year just do the pool. Or something, I think
Yeah.
that they're both just as in need.
If we have it,
Yeah.
keep
we
saying à la
can.
carte, but like if we
Right.
have it like that, then, you know,
Right.
as a committee, we
Yeah.
can decide, you know, I mean, maybe we'll do some stuff
Mhm.
at one park and a little bit at the other, yeah.
I think if we just do one pool, I mean, we are going to actually construct one pool at a time, so that's not the issue. I don't think. But if you just do one, it takes away the option of designing one pool for this specific purpose and then one pool for this specific purpose if we're doing one at a time. And I think you run the risk then of letting the second pool just deteriorate. And I think that's part of the problem of the referendum that failed in 2024 is it was just for one pool. And people thought, well, what about the second pool? And, you know, that the idea was we were gonna maybe close that pool and that got people all in a stir. And I think we decided that two pools, the town needs two pools.
All right, any final thoughts, guys? Any other changes or anything like that? Okay, so then at this point, I would entertain, and I want to be very clear that we are voting to just approve the draft. We're not going to be sending this out. We're just approving the draft language so that at the time that we do have the funds, we can just get this out there. But yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve the updated language on the RFP for construction, conceptual design and cost estimates for both pools.
Second.
So you make the motion and
So
I
she
will
made-
second it.
Alright, so yeah, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so motion passes with one opposed. All right, and now we are moving on to new business, which is discussing next steps. So this is going to be like kind of an open conversation. I'll kick us off by just stating that I'm very flexible. I want to do whatever the committee feels is like the appropriate next thing to do. Personally, I think that our time in the future is best spent focusing on trying to get the funds for this RFP. I think that is our next step that we need to take. And then, you know, that's like how we can get to the point where we can make some meaningful action and have some meaningful discussion. So I would not be against holding off any kind of meetings until we get that funds. I think that if we go like maybe 3 to 4 months without any kind of update about funding, we should get together just to touch base to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. But I am completely open to what you guys might want to do and how you guys want to see the future of this committee move.
I think that makes sense. What you said.
I didn't hear you.
I think it makes sense. There's no point in meeting until we have some money, right?
We don't have control of the money. We don't,
Right.
but our,
I mean, I'm not speaking as town council, I'm speaking as a member of this committee. Can we go to town council and say, this is what we are dealt with, and just say, can you please?
Yeah, I think that
Huh? Hurry up, right?
yeah, I think as counselors, you and I think that we can both advocate both in our caucus. We could talk to the town manager's office, we could talk to the finance office, and you know, for lack of a better word, just be really annoying, you know what I mean, and try to push to find that funding. It's early in the fiscal year, right? So, you know, it just started this month. Things usually pan out a little differently than how things are planned during budget time. So I'm hoping within the next couple of months, you know, realistically, maybe 3, that maybe something frees up. Or maybe there's an account that had extra funding and we can kind of just start to slowly acquire those funds. I mean, that is my goal and my hopes. But beyond that, I just don't see what else we can do as a committee that would be prosperous in the sense that it would mean anything once we actually do get out the RFP.
I just go back to 2024 when I was sitting here on another, as a counselor. And I was told that if we didn't approve this for referendum and it didn't pass, that dire things were gonna happen with the pools, they were gonna collapse and people's lives were in danger and we had to pass this referendum right away. We had no choice and the cost overruns were gonna be horrendous. And now we're 2 years down the road and nothing's happened. And now we're talking about another year down the road and nothing's happened. Frankly, I think it's not our job to find the money. It's up to the council's job to find the money. So I would suggest that we ask the council to send us in writing what they want us to do as a committee. Because frankly, if something happens to these pools, it's not on my conscience. It should be on the council's conscience. And I know there's two of you sitting here and I'm not counting, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to you as members of the pool committee, but we sat here as members of the pool committee. Jim's been here at the beginning. I've been here at the beginning in one form or another, and Eileen's been here for one form or another. We've been here for forever. It's not on my conscience anymore. I've done my due diligence here. I've worked to move this forward. It's up to the council to send us something in writing, what they want us to do. Do they want us to wait? Do they want to find the money? But if this is really important, it was important in 2024. Because within 2 weeks, this committee sent something to referendum. This committee was formed and sent something to referendum about a pool. So it was really important in 2024. So is it still important?
Yeah, so,
I would suggest that we ask the council to send us, or not just between between the two, our two liaisons, because it's unfair to put that on you folks. I want something from the council as the mayor and the council saying, here's what we want you to do. We're looking for the money. Here's what we're looking for it. Here's when we expect to get it. But I think the general public expects something from us. To say we're going to wait till we find the money could be tomorrow or it could be 3 years from now. How do we know? But the public wants to know when these pools are going to get repaired, because in 2024, this was a major issue. And it's still a major issue. These pools they're still, they haven't gotten any better. And the cost has continued to rise. So I would suggest that this committee send back to the council saying, we want something in writing, what you want us to do with this.
so would you like that as like a formal?
I would make that motion that we ask the council for some written direction of how they want this committee to
But do you want that in the form of like a letter? Do you want us to like present that in person at council? Like,
I think the two of you can probably present it at your next council meeting as a report.
formally ask for funding.
Well, I think you should formally ask something. And I think I would like then formally for the council to send us something back in writing, what the direction this committee should take. How long it's going to take to get funding it, and so I can send it out to the people that are asking me. You're on the pool committee. What's the holdup?
I mean, I just think that's kind of an impossible question to ask the council to give an exact timeline for the funding, just because there's like you've been on the council. We don't work in tandem with the finance department. We don't get monthly updates and things like that on like what's available as far as funding. So I don't think if we were to ask them for a specific timeline, I think that we could ask to encourage them to like make it a priority to find this funding. I think that's a little bit more of a fair question, but I don't think asking for an exact timeline is doable in that sense. Jonathan, it looks like you want to say something.
Just so that we're all clear, so I believe it's under the charter that we don't even make we don't move money around until after January 1st. And then you can do supplemental appropriations. You're allowed 2 per year. Those are the ground rules, but as far as, like the finance department won't come out with any kind of like, we recommend you move this around until we get into 2027.
Then the council should say that in writing. So
Well, I mean, it's not my job to speak on behalf of the council. I'll just say this I think the council spoke when it passed the budget. So I don't know that it needs to speak any more than that. I think to the extent to which, we get to January and the finance department is rolling out, okay, here are, kind of moving stuffs around. I think that's maybe the time where, that's the time where council might reasonably start to consider other funding, priorities for the current year. So I just leave it at that. It's not my job to speak on behalf of the council, but that's, asking them to comment on something on a budget that just went into effect 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I think is maybe a little.
So, yeah, I definitely think that if we approach them formally and say, hey, like, we need the funding, we would love for this to become a priority, I think I'm more than willing to do that. I've already talked to my caucus, to an annoying degree about it to begin with. But, and then just to speak a little bit to what you had started off with, the PACs, right, what are the political action committees and all that. Those are private entities, right? And whether it's pools or whatever other referendum question that's gonna pop up, like, what they say is not indicative to like what any kind of like town staff or elected official like has to say, right? Once a project goes to referendum, town, like, you're supposed to stay somewhat biased as an elected official. You can still advocate for things as a private citizen, but when you have flyers talking about how dangerous the pools are and how imminent it is, like, you gotta remember, like, a private entity made those statements. It wasn't any kind of like town staff or town official. So, I mean, and everyone's free to say whatever they want. So it's tough to take that at face value when a private entity is making those claims.
I think, yeah, I believe that the prior superintendent said that the pools are unsafe, but that's.
Yeah. I mean, Bill said that.
Who is it?
We have Scott now, so.
A town official.
Okay. So is everyone on board with? Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you want us to type up a formal request to the council? Have another meeting so we could review that letter and then take a formal vote to push it to council?
Yes.
That sounds good. So then I would entertain a motion to have a draft letter written up, reviewed for our next meeting. Do we even have to? Yeah, I'll just do it anyways. I'll entertain a motion to draft up a letter to council to request priority in funding for this committee.
So moved.
So moved.
And I will second that.
Second, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we will get working on that for our next meeting. That's really fine. Back, and we did that. So now we're still within the next steps here. Sounds like that. We'll get together next month to review that letter. Is there anything else, guys, that you would like to see happen for our next meeting?
Well, just as a committee member, like, should we go to the town council and advocate for this?
I think that's premature.
Okay.
Because eventually we're going to come to council and present them the totality of what the plan is. And I think as private citizens, if you want to come to a meeting, a public participation and advocate for the funding, you're more than free to do so.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna stop you.
Yeah. I get it.
And I think that's just as effective. So yeah, I think that would be a good way to go about that.
And then just one other thing, right now we have $0, like, in our
I
account.
think
Well,
we have something set aside, right?
$15,000 from
Yeah.
the state, but
Yeah,
anything
15.
else besides that?
Right, yeah, after that, everything from this year's budget was unfortunately removed.
Yeah, so there was
Yeah.
nothing left over from last time. It's $15,000 that will go away July of next year if we don't spend it.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is a great point to bring up to our council when we draft that letter, and if you want to come to public participation, because we have money on the table that's just sitting there, so. Anything else, guys? Anything else you'd like to see next meeting or anything? Okay, great. All right, so public participation, round number 2. Anyone come on up?
We do also have one on Zoom.
Oh, great.
You want to take a Zoom first?
Oh, no, you're right here.
Okay. Dana Havens, 113 Stoddard Avenue. I just want to point some things out, get some clarifications. AJ, when you're talking about the cost of the pool, you quoted 15 million, but that was at the high end, and the high end of what Winston Sampson said was actually more like 14 million. And the low end was 11.2. That one I remember because it was both pools for the price of one.
Yeah.
So I knew that one for sure. And then Jim just talked about the grant money, the 15,000, but we got that last year and this year. So wouldn't we have 30,000? I found a paperwork that said that we had gotten it 2 years
I
in a
don't
row.
think we
I'm trying to find it again, but I
Forgot
saw.
to, it was a cross off, they forgot to make it.
Okay. And then a lot of your hesitation is because of the firehouse. And, you know, we won't be able to bond. But I remember when the police department didn't pass referendum, and they're very important to our safety as well as this pool. So I don't know. I just, you might actually have a lot more money than you think, because I'm not positive, especially by comments I've seen on more than just Newington Strong, about, you know, the need for ladder trucks in that area and, you know, things. So it might not even. And then as far as your request for RFP, I did notice you wrote in Red Cross compliant, and I think you need to decide or determine, you know, do you want it to say up to level 6, or do you want it to include life-saving classes too, which, you know, according to when you were discussing with Patrick from Weston Sampson, Mill Pond definitely didn't have the depth to put in a diving board and the, you know, sloping you needed. And also most pools, municipal pools, don't have diving boards because of the liability issues and the cost of insurance. So I just think you should probably let them know we're just thinking level 6 and not life-saving. All right, the grant money. Oh, and then we're talking splash pad versus wading pool. If you look back at Weston Sampson, they actually had like some cool options of like a wading pool that was a splash pad as well. So those, you know, keep that in mind. You know, maybe just have one pool that has a standalone and the other pool can have both. Oh, and as far as funds not being transferred throughout the year, only in January, I don't think that's true. I've seen them get transferred throughout the year and then it just gets reconciled in January. But, you know, I watch here and there. I'm not part of everything, so I could be misinterpreting that. And that's it. I'm done. Unless Rose texted me something that I missed. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Miss Lyons is on the line.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All right, go ahead, Miss Lyons.
Rose Lyons, 46 Elton Drive. Thank you, Dana, for mentioning the bathhouses. Every year I sit and I watch the town council go through the budget and the CIP and the pools, parks, and playgrounds improvements. And I'm glad that Superintendent Karras explained that they've painted and painted and painted as much as they can and makes it look a little bit worse than, I mean, it's bad, but I get it, but there's got to be an answer. It can't keep going. I am 81 years old. At 12 years old, I believe Mill Pond Park pool was put in, and at 12 years old, my mother wanted me to go take swimming lessons with the 5-year-olds, and you know what a 12-year-old is going to say to that. To this day, I don't know how to swim. I have been following this pool project for way too long, way too long. The first committee went back to the town council with a plan to see if they were on board with it. They were told that there were a few questions that the councilors had to go back to the pool committee and bring back the answers. 18 months later, the pool committee still had not met until there was a option or perhaps a chance that we might be in line for a $5 million grant from the state of Connecticut, but we were nowhere near ready. We weren't shovel ready for anything at that point. I remember Eileen coming and speaking at public participation, asking for monies. To me, it's been a political football back and forth. I don't get how it got turned down by the first town council, went back to committee, never came back And then with the new administration that came in, the same plan was presented to the newly formed Town Pools Committee and went to referendum within a short period of time, failed, and now we're with this committee. And I was dumbfounded when I saw the money was cut for funding for this committee to get the answers that they needed. I'm being perfectly honest, I have not followed this. I had my fill when it was Town Hall Reno, and I had a lot to say 2 weeks ago when they presented a space needs report to the town council. And quite honestly, I would like to see the committee agree to the letter that's sent to the town council to make sure that all your questions are answered. I don't know why, maybe you don't have to tell me, I know there's no back and forth probably, but I don't know why somebody can't make a presentation to the town council and ask them if they're on board. I thought your charge was to review the town aquatics facilities. Did anybody come back other than in caucus with their individual political parties to see who's on board with what? It'd be nice to see what the public thinks about this as well. Quite honestly, again, if you don't ask the questions, I'm going to get some together and asked at the next town council meeting, because like I say, if this has been going on for as long as it has, and we can't come to a resolution, what happens when you decide what you're going to do, and then there's a new administration in or whatever, and here we go round and round. And as far as the PACs, I'm sorry, AJ, they may have been private, but they sure were fed enough information from town staff, I'm sure, I can't be positive, but they were fed enough information to attack us fringe radicals who opposed the proposed plan. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
All right, Scott Kroskowski, 46 Miami Avenue. And since Rose brought it up, I'll also talk about the bathhouses. They're in such state of disrepair. And as was mentioned, paint is chipping off the walls. That's easily taken care of with a power washer. Take the old paint off, paint it again. When Bill was in town, I volunteered to go in there and clean it up. And he said if I stepped foot in there, he'd have me arrested. So, but honestly, we couldn't clean them up and make them more presentable to the town and make them better. I don't know if we can make them fully compliant with ADA regulations, but we can make them a lot better than they are now. Parks and Rec is good at finding sponsors for things. Maybe we can find some sponsors to clean it up, weekend project, get some people in here on the weekend and just make them look a little better, especially, I know Extravaganza is gone, but it would have been nice to have them cleaned up for Extravaganza, have some nice bathrooms for people to go to and things like that. Splash pads, and I've said this numerous times, splash pads are relatively cheap in the big spectrum of things. If you get splash pads, and it was mentioned in previous building committees that here at Mill Pond Park, the wiring and the plumbing was put in place for preparation for splash pads. Since splash pads are so cheap, we can put them in anytime without having to go to referendum. Why aren't we doing that? I'd love to see the kids having splash pads out there. Build them now. It was mentioned that maybe we should separate the RFP and only go for one pool at a time. My feeling is if we did that, instead of getting two pools in one plan, that the town wouldn't vote for a second pool somewhere down the line. You build a new pool and okay, we got the first one built. Now let's go to a referendum for a second one. The town's not going to go for a second one. So combine them together. The big cost of the last pool project was actually moving the pool across the park. That was a majority of what cost was in that project, which is why I didn't like the idea of them moving the pool. Let's see, what else I got here? And in the past meetings, you guys talked about one pool being a recreation pool, that being at Mill Pond Park. And then the second pool being for competition use at Churchill. Has that changed at all, or is that still what you're planning on doing? Because that's kind of important when you're getting an RFP saying, I want one pool to be recreational, I want one pool for competition use. So that way they know what kind of pools they're building and where, because it makes a big difference in what it's going to cost. That's it. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Yeah. My name's Lou Voigt, 21 Hartford Avenue. I've been dying to say something about pools for a couple of years now. I really have, because I forget who classified it as Facebook fodder. It might have been our mayor. But the pools have been a hot topic in this town for the last couple of years. I don't know, this guy keeps saying 2024. Was that the year of the Taj Mahal that we wanted built in this town?
Yes.
That split this town like there was no tomorrow. I didn't thought that was embarrassing. That was really pathetic for this town. Act like they did. And getting to this thing here, I never heard this competitive swimming proposal before. To me, you're talking about that and I'm hearing a cash register go ka-ching. Because once again, we're looking to build up price. Is that really needed in town? Is that a necessity or is that a want?
Well, I think we do that now, right?
I'm not clear on that. I mean, we have a swim team that swims at the high school, doesn't it?
Yeah, you would know more than.
So why the hell do we need an outdoor pool? Who's swimming there on a team?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah,
now?
go, yeah.
Okay.
Or it's
We
not
have a
council.
youth swim team in town that has quite a few kids in it. Some kids swim long course, which they go very, very early in the morning, and they go to Churchill and they swim the 50-meter long way. and
Oh,
back.
okay. I didn't know this. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah, and then we have another swim club that's for kids who want to swim a shorter distance, 25 yards. And the 25 yards is the middle section of Mill Pond. It's not gonna cost any more to build it. It just has to be a certain depth so that they can dive off a block into the water safely. The blocks cost a little money. My bet would be that the swim club would have a fundraiser and we'd have those blocks in no time. And then all you need is landmines. It's not anything that's,
But if you're diving off a block, you're gonna need to deep in the pool, aren't you?
it's, I believe, 5.5 feet, 5.5 feet, I think, something like that, 5.5 feet. It's not much different than what's there. And they can turn into a moneymaker because we have a concession stand right there and kids, they love to eat it. They'll swim.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And so we can make some money up that way. It's not gonna cost us, it's not gonna be. a
Thank
big
you. I'm
extra.
really glad I brought it up because I get an answer.
There you go.
That I know back and forth and I don't get no answers.
Not as formal as the.
But I really think this pool has been an albatross for this town for a couple of years now. It's give and take. And it really shouldn't be all that difficult. And as far as this letter to the council, just keep it simple. I know we're broke.
Yeah.
Just tell us what you want us to do. And instead of taking the conspiracy money thing out of it, because we don't have any money. And really, I think the most important thing that this town is doing now that concerns money is getting that firehouse built. Because without that, that little fire, when my kid was cadet of the year, I used to bring him there for a training and I was amazed at how small that firehouse was. And I haven't been back since he was 15 and it's probably even more pathetic looking now. And we need a new firehouse. But I really hope this pool thing really gets settled and I really want the cost to stay down because we don't need another pool gate in this town. Because that year, I gotta tell you, seeing all those signs, the people spent money on all these signs all over town was outrageous. I mean, we could have paid for the pool with all these signs being printed.
That was before 2024. That was when there was.
Whatever
talk
year
about
that was.
Building it over
So
on
it's-
Willard
yeah.
Avenue. That
But-
was,
My main thing, and that's why I brought up the swim team thing, was to
Yeah.
keep costs down.
Yeah.
This a la carte thing scares me because it's like going to, what's that, Ruth Chris, and then you got an a la carte menu.
still expensive.
You're out $300 by the time you walk out the door because it's a la carte. Oh, I like that. And I just thinking, I think if we have splash pools, it should be in a fenced-in area, not outside of it, because I think the town would want some control over who's running through these splash pads. And I'm really glad that it seems like the town wants to keep the pool at the park in one spot.
Mhm.
I didn't make it to the extravaganza for health reasons, but I saw the pictures and my son was there and my friends were there. And I can only imagine how much room a pool would take up at an important event like that. You know, we'd make room up behind the food trucks and everything, but, and one last thing that popped into my mind. Have we checked local contractors around that might be willing to donate their time to for a bathhouse that needs to feel good and put their name on one? And donate time?
Not done that.
We've tried that?
We haven't done that, but this committee can't approve putting someone's name on anything in town. That's a whole different
Well, I
committee.
think if somebody built it for free, they get their name
I mean,
tag on
probably,
it.
but we can't speak to that though. I'm just saying.
Oh,
like, that's
I'm
the
not
rule,
good
yeah.
with these rules and
Yeah, yeah.
regulations and shit that
There is
everybody
layers
talks
to
about.
it all. Yeah.
I just think it's just worth a try to save a few grand. All right, I'm glad I came.
Thank you.
And I don't see any problem with not coming back here for a few months, since we can't do shit without money.
Right.
That's how it goes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Scott, would you like to say anything? Do
Was that?
you want to say anything?
No, I think this is very informative. And I also think it's important to note that I did meet with Tom LaPierre, who's here, who's in charge of the pools, to get a better understanding of where they are, how much it takes to get them up and running, and how he's been doing it for the last couple of years is pretty remarkable. We also have, he was talking about a local vendor. We use Connecticut Custom Aquatics. And the owner came in just to kind of explain things, look at the RFP and give me a better understanding of where they are. I found it very informative for myself. In particular, there's a lot of things he brought up, and I always like using examples of similar towns. He's done the projects in similar towns, Southington, Wallingford, I think he says South Windsor, a lot of these different ones. And I think if you want, I could do some more research and see what other towns that are faced, like we're faced, and what the best cause of action can be. Because again, hearing from the residents, hearing from the public, there are a lot of things that upset them. So we have to do what's in the best interest of the town to make sure that we try to address all of them. And it's just not a simple fix. It's the bathhouses, it's the pools, it's the splash pads. I mean, it's everything. The one thing I do know is everyone enjoys the pools and they don't want to see them go away. So we need to try to do everything possible to make sure that we do the right decision for the town. So I'm definitely, part of that. I mean, I'm a resident, so I reviewed all the stuff that went through in previous pastime. But I'm a fresh person here, new ideas, and I'll do whatever's in the best interest of the town to try to get those facts and figures for you.
Love that.
Thanks.
All right. So no more public participation. Thanks for everyone coming out there. Are there any comments from the commission members? Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I didn't know he was here, but opening the pool is not easy. So we should thank people that actually do that every day, because I have a child that swims in there every day. And I'm very thankful she's learning how to swim, so I appreciate that. I don't want that to be lost on all this discussion of how bad the pools are, because that's not fault of anyone specifically, that's fault of all of us really in the town. So I just want to make sure we say that. Thanks.
Anytime.
Yeah, I would just like to say I'm very encouraged. We're moving forward. We're going somewhere. That's why we're all here. We want to make sure this gets done. And it's going to get done. We're going to make sure that it does, and in the best interest of the public and what's best for all around the aquatic program here. So I'm excited that we're moving forward.
All right, well, I'll just say that I agree with you. I think honestly, if we had the funding, we'd be having a completely different conversation right now, right? So that's really the crux that we're faced with right now. But I think we have a solid vision. I think we have a solid plan. We just need money to make it happen. So we will get a meeting in the books for next month. We'll get a letter drafted up. We can get together. We could talk about that. In the meantime, guys, if there's anything that you, anything else that pops up in between now and then that you'd like to see on the agenda, just email me. We can add to the agenda. We'll talk about it. And then let's all, whatever you do, put a spoon under your pillow or whatever superstition you do, let's try and get some money for this committee here. And at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all right, all those in favor? Any opposed?